I have to create a work of art from 3 random materials. Let's see what I pick. But first I have to do something that I'm sure I'm gonna regret later. Dumping all of my materials into the biggest bowl I have. That's a lot of markers. I don't think that's gonna work. I found a big box instead. Ta-da! Now let's add the materials. All materials added. Give it a little stir. Kind of sharp. So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to pick 3 pens or pencils, whatever it may be. 1 for outlines, 2 for color, and 3 for highlight and or shadows. Let's get to it. This pick is for outlines. It doesn't fit all the way around my head, so I'm just gonna have to hold it. This is just a cap, I think. Okay, for outlines, we have a pen that I'm not even sure works. It does. Not bad, not a bad pick. Pick number 2 is for color. We have like an orangish red marker. Not bad. Okay, this is for highlights or shadows. Pick number 3. We have another, or a pencil. You know, I'm actually not mad about these picks. Let's make something cool. Now I'm going to be using a red pencil to sketch all this stuff out. And it's just because, you know, that's how my mind works for whatever weird reason. But, you know, when you pick black, graphite, and orange, what kind of comes to mind? It's almost spooky season. So of course we're going to make a pumpkin. But I want this pumpkin to be, you know, not just a pumpkin, you know. Of course he has to have a scary face, and of course he has to have a weird grin, a very creepy grin. And of course he has to have a flowing tongue out of his mouth that is like, you know, maybe he's in motion or something, I don't know. Like, you know, he's throwing himself at a child and scaring people. I don't know. But yeah, actually this idea just came kind of quick, and the sketch didn't take long at all because I was like, ooh, I'm excited for this one. But yeah, so that was fun. Now we're moving on to outlines. I'm just gonna try and use my like traditional way of outlining, which is, you know, just a base kind of layer with thin lines, and then hopefully going back and filling in like the little lines, like adjusting the line with just a teeny bit to give it a little bit of dimension. The idea was to make the lines not super precise because I want this to be like, you know, a grotesque and weird drawing. So I figured it'd be best if the lines themselves were not perfect, just like this pumpkin. Yeah, everything was going great. You know, pretty simple, nice lines, clean. And then remember how I said that this pen works at the beginning of this video? Well, just hang on just a minute here. You're going to see a frustrated Ben, because guess what? It does not actually work. But we got it. And everything was going smooth. Once again, this pumpkin was coming to life. But you wouldn't believe it. All that hard work, and it happens again. And at this point, I am just like franticking, whatever you want to call it, just trying to get this thing to work again. On my palm, taking out the thing itself. But finally, we're back. And this will be a lesson learned to me because I had a feeling that this pen would not work. And to reasons I don't know, why didn't I just throw this out when I knew it was going to work? So that's on me. Because you know what? It happened again. So out of pure frustration, I just moved on to color. I was over it. I was done. There was a lot more that I wanted to do with the pen, but whatever. You can only do what you can do, I guess. Does that even make sense? But anyway, I had a idea with this orange. I was going to paint the darker sides of it and leaving white as the highlight. So that's what I did. I was going around seeing where I think the light might hit and paint the darker parts orange. And you know what? It looked like a hot mess. But I just kind of rolled with it because I didn't want the whole pumpkin to be orange. But now that I'm thinking of it, maybe it should have. But I was just kind of going with it and hoping that the shadows, or maybe I can do some sort of texture with the paint to help fix this mess. Like, what am I even doing here? What is that? It was my way of problem solving, but now that I'm looking at it, ew. And so I just decided to move on to the tongue, add some sort of like dots, I guess. And maybe that'll make something magical happen. So with that, we move on to pick number 3, the graphite mechanical pencil, my knight in shining armor. The material that was going to save this drawing, or at least I thought. The plan was simple, just make the darkest darks dark and make the lightest lights still white, I guess. But the pencil wasn't dark enough. So I, trying to apply as much pressure as possible and trying not to make it look scratchy, I tried to do that. At the time, I saw a glimpse of hope. I was like, wow, this pumpkin is going to be gorgeous. It is going to turn out so cool, so spooky. And I think, at the end, it sort of did. Not exactly what I envisioned, but this is what I get for picking the 3 tools randomly and only limiting myself to 3 tools. And then pops in another knight in shining armor. I actually went back to the color to see if I could maybe, add an extra layer of oomph to give it more dimension. And I'm not too well versed in these alcoholic markers or whatever they are, so it didn't really do a whole lot. If anything, it just blended the graphite that's already on there. And then look who decided to show up again. My good old friend, Mr. Mechanical Pencil. I thought maybe I could sort of transition the orange into the bright white, but it just was not going the way I planned. I'm also not the best at rendering, so that doesn't help. I guess I should have paid more attention in my art classes. And then I realized my palms were getting absolutely destroyed by this graphite. I was like, oh, I'm just smearing it everywhere. Which I guess is kind of spooky. It looks like smudge, smoke, something. I don't know. Doesn't take away from it, I guess. Because look at this mess. Anyway, let's get on to the results. I appreciate everyone tuning in and watching this pumpkin come to life. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do it, because I like making art for you all. See you next time.